What if the real reason strength disappears after 40 has nothing to do with age, genetics, or discipline, but with how we were taught to move in the first place? While many people chase intensity, speed, and exhaustion, entire generations of Japanese elders continue to rise from the floor, walk with stability, and carry their own weight well into old age without gyms, supplements, or extreme routines. Their strength does not shout, it whispers through balance, patience, and daily motion, forcing us to question everything we believe about fitness, aging, and the human body, and to wonder whether the body was never meant to be pushed harder, but understood more deeply. If you watch the way many Japanese elders move, the first thing you sense is not physical power but an unspoken confidence that lives inside their nervous system. Their steps are measured, their transitions smooth, their balance steady even when the body shows signs of age. Science helps us understand that strength after 40 is no longer a simple matter of muscle size or force production. It becomes a dialogue between the brain and the body, a relationship shaped by trust, repetition, and safety. Muscles do not weaken suddenly because of age, they weaken gradually when the nervous system becomes cautious, when it begins to interpret movement as a threat rather than an expression of life. As humans age, the brain becomes more protective. This is not weakness, but intelligence. The nervous system constantly evaluates risk, and past injuries, pain, or long periods of inactivity teach it to limit movement. When the brain reduces the signal it sends to muscles, strength fades even if the muscle tissue itself still exists. Japanese elders unknowingly counteract this process through daily movement that is calm, controlled, and predictable. These movements reassure the nervous system, telling it that the body is safe to use, safe to load, safe to move through space without fear. Modern science calls this neural adaptation. Strength is not only the ability of muscles to contract but the brain's willingness to recruit them. Studies show that a significant portion of strength loss after midlife comes from reduced neural drive rather than muscle loss alone. Japanese elders maintain this neural connection through frequent, low-stress movement that keeps communication pathways active. Each time they rise from the floor, shift their weight, or walk with intention, the brain updates its internal map of the body, reinforcing confidence instead of caution. There is something deeply biological about moving without urgency. Fast, aggressive exercise often triggers protective responses, especially in older bodies. Cortisol rises, joints tense, breathing becomes shallow, and the nervous system shifts into defense mode. In contrast, slow and deliberate movement activates the parasympathetic system, the state in which learning, repair, and coordination improve. Japanese elders move in this state most of the time. Their bodies learn without stress, adapt without fear, and strengthen without strain. Balance plays a crucial role here. Balance is not just a physical skill, it is a neurological one. The brain relies on constant sensory feedback from the feet, joints, eyes, and inner ear to maintain stability. When movement becomes rare or rushed, this feedback weakens. Japanese elders continuously stimulate these systems through natural daily motion. Walking on uneven ground, changing positions frequently, and maintaining awareness of posture keeps balance systems sharp. Scientific research shows that improved balance directly correlates with maintained muscle strength because the brain allows more force when it feels stable. Another overlooked factor is how movement preserves confidence in joint integrity. Joints are rich in sensory receptors that inform the brain about position and safety. When joints are not used regularly, these receptors lose sensitivity, making the brain more cautious. Gentle daily movement nourishes joints with synovial fluid and restores sensory feedback. Japanese elders do not stretch aggressively or isolate muscles, they move joints through their natural ranges repeatedly. This teaches the brain that joints are stable, reducing protective muscle inhibition and allowing strength to remain accessible. Fear of falling is one of the strongest predictors of physical decline after 40. Even subtle fear alters movement patterns, reducing stride length, stiffening joints, and limiting muscle activation. Japanese elders appear free from this fear not because they are reckless, but because their daily practices have built trust over decades. Science supports this observation. When the brain repeatedly experiences successful movement without pain or loss of balance, fear circuits calm down. Confidence grows, and strength becomes available again. There is also an emotional component rooted in how movement is perceived. In many modern cultures, exercise becomes a test, a punishment, or a desperate attempt to reverse aging. This mindset creates tension. Japanese elders often view movement as maintenance, not performance. This perspective aligns with psychological research showing that positive associations with movement improve adherence and neurological engagement. When movement feels purposeful and kind, the brain remains open to adaptation. Breathing quietly supports this entire system. Slow, natural breathing enhances oxygen delivery, stabilizes the spine, and signals safety to the nervous system. Japanese elders rarely hold their breath or brace unnecessarily during movement. This allows muscles to work efficiently without excess tension. Scientific studies demonstrate that coordinated breathing improves motor control and reduces unnecessary muscle co-contraction, preserving energy and strength over time. What emerges from all of this is a form of strength that does not announce itself loudly. It is not explosive or dramatic. It is resilient, reliable, and deeply integrated into daily life. The body remains capable not because it is pushed, but because it is consistently invited to participate. The nervous system stays curious instead of defensive, responsive instead of restrictive, allowing strength to remain present even as the body changes, even as time moves forward, even as the years continue to unfold through ordinary days filled with quiet motion and awareness. What looks like simplicity in the daily movements of Japanese elders is often mistaken for lack of training, but science reveals something far more sophisticated taking place beneath the surface. Every time they stand up from the floor, bend to reach an object, or walk with measured intention, the body is engaging in a complex biological dialogue. Muscles, tendons, joints, and the brain are exchanging information constantly, adjusting tension, refining coordination, and reinforcing patterns that support long-term strength. These movements may appear ordinary, yet they stimulate systems that modern fitness routines often overlook. From a physiological perspective, the body thrives on frequency more than intensity as it ages. High-intensity training has its place, but after 40, the body's adaptive priorities shift. The muscle fibers most vulnerable to aging are not the large, powerful fibers associated with explosive strength, but the smaller, endurance-oriented fibers responsible for posture, stability, and sustained movement. Research shows that these fibers respond best to repeated, low-load activation. Japanese elders naturally train these fibers throughout the day, not in isolated sessions, but through living itself. Each movement sends a signal to mitochondria, the energy-producing structures inside muscle cells. Frequent movement maintains mitochondrial density and efficiency, which directly influences muscle endurance and resistance to fatigue. When movement becomes rare, mitochondria downregulate, and muscles lose their ability to sustain even simple tasks. Japanese elders avoid this decline not by pushing their limits, but by never letting their muscles forget their purpose. The body stays metabolically awake, constantly reminded that movement is expected and supported. Joint health plays a central role in this process. Joints are not passive hinges, they are sensory organs rich in mechanoreceptors that inform the brain about position, pressure, and movement quality. Gentle, repeated motion keeps these receptors active. Synovial fluid circulates, cartilage receives nutrients, and stiffness is reduced without force. Scientific studies confirm that joints exposed to regular, moderate movement maintain their integrity far longer than those subjected to either neglect or excessive stress. Japanese elders intuitively follow this principle by moving joints often and without aggression. There is also a profound effect on connective tissue. Tendons and fascia adapt slowly, responding best to consistent loading rather than sporadic strain. Daily movement provides just enough tension to maintain elasticity and strength without triggering inflammation. Over time, this preserves the body's ability to transfer force efficiently, allowing strength to feel effortless rather than forced. The body does not need to brace or compensate when tissues are well conditioned through gentle repetition. The nervous system once again plays a defining role. Movement repetition sharpens motor patterns, making actions smoother and more economical. When the brain recognizes a movement as familiar and safe, it reduces unnecessary muscle activation, conserving energy while maintaining control. This efficiency is often mistaken for weakness, yet it represents a highly trained system. Japanese elders move with economy, not because they lack strength, but because their bodies no longer waste it. Walking itself becomes a form of training. Each step challenges balance, coordination, and rhythm. The alternating contraction and relaxation of muscles promotes circulation and lymphatic flow, supporting tissue repair and immune function. Scientific observation shows that habitual walking improves insulin sensitivity and supports muscle preservation even in advanced age. Japanese elders often walk with awareness, adjusting pace and posture unconsciously, transforming a simple act into continuous conditioning. Another overlooked aspect is how these movements support bone health. Bones respond to mechanical loading, but they do not require extreme force to adapt. Repeated impact at low levels, such as walking, standing, and changing direction, stimulates bone remodeling. This helps maintain density and structural integrity, reducing fracture risk without the dangers associated with heavy lifting in older populations. Daily movement becomes a quiet investment in skeletal resilience. There is also a hormonal dimension to consider. Frequent, moderate activity regulates hormones involved in muscle maintenance, including growth hormone and insulin-like growth factors. Unlike intense workouts that can elevate stress hormones when recovery is insufficient, gentle daily movement keeps the hormonal environment favorable. This balance supports muscle repair and limits chronic inflammation, one of the major drivers of age-related weakness. The body remains in a state of readiness rather than recovery from stress. Perhaps most important is how these movements reshape the body's internal expectations. The brain predicts what the body can do based on past experiences. When movement is rare, the prediction becomes conservative. When movement is constant, even if gentle, the prediction becomes optimistic. Japanese elders continually update this prediction through daily action. The body expects to move, expects to bear weight, expects to remain functional. Strength, in this sense, becomes a background condition rather than a goal. Over time, these small actions accumulate into profound resilience. The body does not distinguish between exercise and life, it only responds to signals. Japanese elders send clear, consistent signals that movement is normal, safe, and necessary. Science confirms that the body adapts precisely to what it experiences most often. Through simple repetition, natural motion, and respect for the body's rhythms, strength is preserved not as a dramatic achievement, but as an ongoing biological conversation that continues to evolve with each step, each bend, each quiet moment of motion woven into the flow of everyday existence. Posture is often misunderstood as a cosmetic concern, something related to appearance rather than biology, yet in the bodies of many Japanese elders it functions as a silent regulator of strength, energy, and longevity. When you observe them standing or walking, there is an effortless verticality, a sense that the body is stacked rather than held. Science explains this not as discipline, but as efficiency. The human body is designed to move with gravity, not against it, and posture determines whether muscles are constantly fighting imbalance or calmly supporting structure. After 40, this distinction becomes critical because unnecessary muscular tension accelerates fatigue, joint wear, and nervous system stress. At the center of posture lies the spine, which functions less like a rigid column and more like a dynamic antenna transmitting information between the brain and the body. Poor alignment disrupts this communication, forcing muscles to compensate for structural imbalance. When the head drifts forward or the pelvis tilts excessively, muscles remain partially contracted all day, even at rest. This constant low-level contraction reduces circulation, limits oxygen delivery, and increases inflammation. Japanese elders often maintain spinal alignment through habit rather than effort, allowing muscles to relax fully when not needed and activate only when movement demands it. Breathing is inseparable from this process. Posture shapes how the diaphragm moves, and the diaphragm influences everything from core stability to nervous system regulation. Slouched posture compresses the rib cage, restricting breath and forcing accessory muscles of the neck and shoulders to assist. Over time, this creates tension patterns that weaken deeper stabilizing muscles. Upright yet relaxed posture allows the diaphragm to descend fully, improving oxygen exchange and signaling safety to the nervous system. Scientific studies show that diaphragmatic breathing reduces cortisol levels, which directly protects muscle tissue from breakdown. The nervous system continuously scans posture as a marker of threat or safety. When posture is collapsed, the brain interprets vulnerability, increasing protective tension. When posture is balanced, the brain relaxes its defenses, allowing smoother movement and better coordination. Japanese elders benefit from this neurological calm. Their posture tells the brain that the body is stable, grounded, and prepared, which increases confidence in movement and allows strength to emerge naturally rather than through force. There is also a mechanical advantage that posture provides. When joints are aligned, force travels efficiently through bones rather than being absorbed by soft tissues. This reduces strain on muscles and connective tissue, preserving energy and preventing injury. Over decades, this efficiency accumulates. The body experiences less wear not because it avoids movement, but because it distributes load intelligently. Japanese elders often rise from the floor or carry objects with minimal visible effort because their posture allows gravity and structure to assist rather than resist. Posture also influences proprioception, the body's sense of position in space. Poor alignment dulls proprioceptive feedback, making movement feel uncertain. The brain responds by stiffening muscles, which paradoxically reduces balance and strength. Upright, relaxed posture sharpens sensory input from joints and muscles, improving coordination. Research confirms that improved posture enhances balance and reduces fall risk, not by strengthening muscles directly, but by improving the brain's understanding of where the body is and how it is moving. Cultural habits quietly reinforce this biological advantage. Sitting on the floor, standing frequently, and avoiding prolonged slouched seating naturally train postural muscles. These activities require the body to organize itself repeatedly throughout the day. Rather than holding posture statically, Japanese elders practice dynamic posture, constantly adjusting and recalibrating alignment through small movements. Science supports this approach, showing that variable, low-intensity activation of postural muscles maintains endurance and neuromuscular control better than rigid holding patterns. There is a psychological dimension as well. Posture affects mood, confidence, and perception of effort. Studies show that upright posture reduces perceived exertion during physical tasks. When the body is aligned, movements feel easier, encouraging continued activity. This creates a positive feedback loop where movement reinforces posture and posture supports movement. Japanese elders rarely separate posture from motion; it is embedded within how they live, walk, work, and rest. Aging connective tissue responds especially well to this approach. Fascia adapts to the lines of tension it experiences most often. Poor posture creates dense, restricted facial patterns that limit movement and strength. Balanced posture distributes tension evenly, maintaining elasticity and glide between tissues. Over time, this preserves range of motion without aggressive stretching. The body remains supple not because it is forced, but because it is consistently aligned. Even internal organs are affected. Upright posture creates space for organs to function without compression, improving digestion, circulation, and metabolic efficiency. This reduces systemic stress and inflammation, indirectly supporting muscle health. The body functions as an integrated system, and posture is the framework that allows this system to operate smoothly. Japanese elders benefit from this integration, often without conscious awareness of its complexity. Perhaps the most profound aspect is that posture reflects relationship rather than control. Instead of commanding the body into position, Japanese elders allow alignment to emerge from awareness and habit. This aligns with neurological research showing that sustainable motor patterns are learned through repetition and sensation, not forceful correction. The body remembers what it practices most often. When posture is practiced gently, consistently, and without tension, it becomes effortless. Strength after 40 depends less on how hard the body works and more on how wisely it organizes itself. Posture is the quiet architecture that supports this wisdom. By aligning the skeleton, calming the nervous system, and allowing breath to flow freely, the body conserves energy and preserves capability. What appears as stillness is actually readiness. What looks like ease is the result of decades of efficient communication between brain and body, and what feels natural is the outcome of living in a way that allows strength to remain present without resistance or struggle. One of the most striking differences between how Japanese elders maintain strength and how modern societies approach fitness lies in the absence of separation between exercise and living. Movement is not something reserved for a specific hour, outfit, or location. It is embedded into the structure of the day, flowing naturally from one activity to the next. From a scientific perspective, this integration may be one of the most powerful reasons strength persists after 40. The human body adapts not to what it does occasionally, but to what it does consistently, and consistency is easiest when movement is woven into routine rather than dependent on motivation. Behavioral science shows that habits anchored to daily life are far more resilient than those driven by willpower alone. Motivation fluctuates with mood, stress, and energy, especially as responsibilities and age increase. Japanese elders do not rely on motivation to move. They rely on structure. Standing up and sitting down multiple times a day, walking to nearby places, performing household tasks manually, and changing posture frequently all create repeated exposure to movement stimuli. These stimuli continuously remind the body that movement is expected, normal, and non-negotiable. Physiologically, this pattern keeps muscles in a state of readiness. Muscles respond to regular signaling by maintaining protein synthesis pathways that preserve tissue integrity. Long gaps between activities send the opposite signal, encouraging the body to conserve energy by reducing muscle mass. Frequent low-level activation prevents this downregulation. Even small actions such as carrying groceries, sweeping floors, or climbing stairs contribute to maintaining muscle tone and coordination when performed daily. Metabolically, integrated movement has a profound effect on blood sugar regulation. Each time muscles contract, they absorb glucose independent of insulin. This improves insulin sensitivity, reducing metabolic stress that accelerates muscle loss and inflammation with age. Japanese elders benefit from this effect continuously throughout the day rather than in isolated bursts. Science confirms that multiple short bouts of movement are often more effective for metabolic health than a single prolonged workout. There is also a circulatory advantage. Regular movement keeps blood and lymph flowing, delivering nutrients and removing waste products from tissues. When movement is infrequent, circulation slows, recovery suffers, and tissues become stiff and inflamed. By contrast, integrated daily movement acts like a constant internal cleansing process. Muscles remain warm, joints stay lubricated, and connective tissue remains adaptable. Strength becomes easier to access because the body is never fully dormant. Neurologically, embedding movement into daily life reinforces motor patterns without conscious effort. The brain strengthens the neural circuits it uses most often. When movements are repeated in familiar contexts, they become automatic and efficient. Japanese elders refine coordination through repetition rather than instruction. Each squat-like motion when rising from the floor, each step taken with awareness, strengthens neural efficiency. This efficiency reduces energy cost and lowers injury risk, allowing movement to continue comfortably over decades. Another important factor is psychological load. Formal exercise often carries pressure to perform, improve, or compare. This pressure can trigger stress responses that interfere with recovery and enjoyment. Integrated movement lacks this psychological burden. There are no expectations beyond completion of daily tasks. Research in health psychology shows that reducing performance anxiety improves long-term adherence to physical activity. When movement is simply part of life, the mind relaxes, and the body responds more favorably. The absence of rigid scheduling also respects natural energy rhythms. Some days the body has more capacity, other days less. Integrated movement adjusts automatically. Tasks are spread throughout the day, allowing effort and recovery to alternate naturally. This aligns with biological principles of adaptation, where tissues strengthen best when stress is applied intermittently rather than all at once. Japanese elders unknowingly apply this principle by allowing movement to ebb and flow with daily needs. There is also a social dimension that amplifies these benefits. Many daily movements occur in shared spaces, markets, neighborhoods, and homes. Social engagement enhances adherence and emotional well-being, which indirectly supports physical health. Studies show that social interaction reduces stress hormones and supports immune and muscular health. Movement performed in a socially connected environment feels meaningful rather than obligatory. Environmental design further reinforces this lifestyle. Walkable communities, compact living spaces, and cultural norms that favor activity over convenience reduce sedentary time. Science increasingly recognizes sedentary behavior as an independent risk factor for muscle decline, even in people who exercise regularly. Japanese elders spend less time sitting continuously, breaking up inactivity with frequent posture changes. These interruptions protect muscle function and joint health throughout the day. Over time, the body internalizes this rhythm. Movement becomes expected, not negotiated. Muscles, bones, and the nervous system align with this expectation. The body does not wait for instruction to engage, it responds automatically to daily demands. Strength remains present because it is continually rehearsed in real-world contexts rather than isolated environments. Perhaps the most subtle effect is how this approach reshapes identity. When movement is part of life, strength becomes part of who someone is, not something they chase. This identity supports long-term behavior change far more effectively than goals or programs. Science supports this idea, showing that identity-based habits are the most durable. Japanese elders move because that is how life is lived, and the body responds by maintaining the capacity to support that life through steady, unremarkable, and quietly powerful motion that continues to express itself each day in ordinary actions that never needed to be labeled as training. Perhaps the most misunderstood element of why Japanese elders remain strong after 40 lies not in what they do, but in how they relate to effort itself. There is an absence of aggression in their movement, a quiet patience that modern fitness culture often mistakes for insufficiency. Yet biology tells a different story. The aging body does not respond well to force, urgency, or punishment. It responds to safety, rhythm, and trust. When movement is approached with calm intention rather than domination, the nervous system opens rather than resists, and this openness becomes the foundation for sustainable strength. Stress hormones play a central role in this process. Cortisol, while essential in short bursts, becomes destructive when elevated chronically. High cortisol accelerates muscle breakdown, impairs recovery, and increases inflammation, especially in aging tissues. Many people over 40 unknowingly train their bodies into a constant state of stress by pushing too hard, chasing intensity, or exercising through pain. Japanese elders, by contrast, move in a way that rarely triggers this hormonal cascade. Their movements are deliberate, controlled, and emotionally neutral. Science shows that calm movement lowers cortisol and supports anabolic processes that preserve muscle and connective tissue. The nervous system is always listening to emotional tone. Movement performed with frustration, fear, or pressure sends signals of threat. Movement performed with patience and awareness sends signals of safety. These signals determine whether the brain allows full muscle recruitment or restricts it protectively. Japanese elders move as if listening inwardly rather than imposing an agenda. This inward attention reduces unnecessary tension and allows muscles to engage fully without resistance. Strength emerges not as an act of will, but as a natural response to permission. Recovery is another hidden dimension of this philosophy. The body strengthens not during movement, but in response to it. When movement is gentle and frequent, recovery becomes seamless rather than scheduled. There is no sharp contrast between effort and rest. Tissues repair continuously, supported by stable blood flow and balanced hormones. Scientific research confirms that frequent low-stress activity enhances recovery capacity by improving circulation, mitochondrial efficiency, and cellular repair mechanisms. Japanese elders live within this recovery-friendly rhythm without labeling it as such. Pain perception is also shaped by emotional context. Calm movement reduces pain sensitivity by modulating how the brain interprets sensory input. Aggressive movement amplifies pain signals, increasing protective tension and limiting range of motion. Japanese elders often move through minor discomfort without resistance, allowing the nervous system to recalibrate rather than panic. Over time, this reduces chronic pain patterns and preserves mobility. Strength remains accessible because the body is not locked in a cycle of guarding and fear. There is a deep intelligence in allowing the body to age rather than attempting to defeat time. Aging brings changes in connective tissue elasticity, joint surfaces, and neural conduction speed. When movement adapts to these changes with patience, the body compensates gracefully. When movement ignores them, injury and frustration follow. Japanese elders adjust pace, range, and load intuitively, aligning with scientific principles of adaptation. Tissues remodel best when stress is applied gradually and predictably, not suddenly or excessively. The parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and repair system, thrives in calm movement. This state enhances digestion, immune function, and tissue regeneration. Gentle movement stimulates this system rather than overriding it. Studies show that parasympathetic dominance supports muscle maintenance and reduces systemic inflammation. Japanese elders spend much of their movement time in this state, allowing strength to coexist with relaxation rather than competing against it. Emotionally, this approach transforms the relationship with the body. Instead of viewing the body as something to be corrected or improved, it becomes something to be accompanied. This compassionate perspective reduces internal conflict, which science increasingly recognizes as a contributor to chronic stress and physical decline. When the mind stops fighting the body, physiological systems synchronize more efficiently. Hormonal balance improves, sleep deepens, and recovery accelerates, all of which protect strength as years pass. Attention itself becomes a form of nourishment. Moving slowly enough to feel weight shift, joint position, and breath rhythm enhances interoception, the brain's awareness of internal states. Improved interoception is linked to better motor control and emotional regulation. Japanese elders cultivate this awareness naturally through unhurried movement. The brain remains tuned to subtle signals, allowing early adjustments before strain accumulates. Strength persists because problems are addressed quietly rather than dramatically. This philosophy also dissolves the illusion that progress must be visible to be real. Modern fitness often demands measurable outcomes, heavier loads, faster times. Japanese elders prioritize continuity over progress. Science supports this choice. Long-term health correlates more strongly with consistency than with peak performance. Muscles, bones, and the nervous system care less about records and more about regular reminders of use. By removing pressure to improve, movement becomes sustainable indefinitely. There is a humility embedded in this way of moving. The body is acknowledged as intelligent, adaptive, and deserving of respect. This humility aligns with biological reality. The human organism evolved to respond to gentle persistence, not constant challenge. When movement honors this design, strength becomes an expression of balance rather than conquest. Japanese elders embody this balance not through theory, but through daily behavior that quietly aligns with how the body heals, adapts, and endures. In the end, what preserves their strength is not a secret technique, but a relationship with effort that allows the body to feel safe enough to remain capable. Calm movement reduces stress, patience enhances recovery, and acceptance supports adaptation. The body responds by staying responsive rather than rigid, resilient rather than reactive, carrying strength forward not as something forced against time, but as something carried gently alongside it as days continue to unfold through motion that feels honest, unhurried, and deeply attuned to the rhythms of being alive.